once more.
Yes, and for if you want to hear our really meaty discussion of the Mexican League, and you're gonna have to hear it on a podcast. See, we're doing it this interactively. Like you jump from seeing us to the podcast. Yeah, that's how we did it. It's not because we just couldn't record and save that other segment as a video. Not at all. I mean, it's just it's part of the master plan.
Yeah.
So in this third segment, we're gonna be talking about music because I heard, I listened to two CDs, like 2 whole CDs, and that's what I'm gonna be talking about.
Whole year?
Well, maybe 3. Yeah. No. Well,
I feel like I'm in the same boat. I feel like I have 2 CDs that I can talk about with people, and that's it. So, you tell me your 2 CDs.
Well, okay. So, and see, this is the thing when you're, when you're recording, you start grabbing, like pulling and, like scratching,
Yeah, you forget you're on camera, and then you start doing all these things that you do when you're normally recording.
As opposed to when you're actually in front of a mic and you start like, and
Yeah.
Not that I don't use like and a lot in my speech, but see, I think that it gets exacerbated when there's a freaking microphone. And by the way, if you're you're watching us, right? You're watching this video. This is for props. I mean, this is for the podcast because this is not going here, so you're hearing like a really shitty type of audio, and I don't know why I'm telling you that, but anyways, my 2 CDs. One is the Café Tacuba one, the much awaited, and much awaited because I'll give you the inner story. Last time I heard, and that was last year, they were taking a sabbatical year, and I heard that they were like, this time it was just like they were not feeling each other. They were just kind of like, that. So they might have not been this album. Like last year, they were just like, aight.
And there was a documentary that came out. Was it
last year?
Like last year, and I felt like they kind of touched on that, but they didn't really get into it. They just kind of alluded to the problems between. I don't even know if it's problems, but they just alluded to the fact that there's each guy kind of has issues about, like the bass player had issues about, being the bass player that nobody cares about, or things like that. And I feel like the documentary was.
Oh, you're talking about yourself again here, Omar?
No.
Okay.
No, but it's like I felt like that documentary was okay, but I felt like it was. I remember, I don't know if it was the director that was talking about it after when I watched it.
Mm-hmm.
But he said something like, the band wanted it to be about this and that. And I felt like it was too... I guess they probably deferred to the band a little too much on what they wanted to show and didn't show. And it just ended up being like this kind of documentary where they just kind of touched on certain things, but they didn't really get into it. And you kind of felt like, okay, well, these guys might not ever play again.
Mm-hmm.
But they were just you kind of were left in the dark about it. But
yeah, no, I do agree, and I think that my interpretation of that, because people always say, well, you do the podcast, and you always end up agreeing with each other. I'm like, well, is that a bad thing? I wouldn't be doing this, with some conservative, reactionary, Tea Party loving person, right? But, or, I don't know. Anyways, I think that definitely there's not a tradition in Mexico of rock documentaries. And I think that had to do with the fact that these cats that did the documentary, it was well done, the photography was good,
right.
But the storyline, I mean, newsflash, documentaries have a narrative and they have a story and it gets manipulated.
Right.
Period. I mean, it's not like, we're just seeing, this neutral thing that's happening. I mean, like, you create some conflict or you create some sort of narrative. Right. And I think that's how this one, they decided to, one thing I didn't like about the freaking directors that they put themselves in the movie. And I was just like, really? I mean, and I think it had, like breaking the third wall or whatever it's called in film speak, really killed it for me. And also the fact that, they wanted to see Café Tacuba in their creative zone, and it didn't happen, and I think they were frustrated by that. But at the time, it's just like you're on tour. How are you gonna get like these shots of being creative? And And then the second thing is that they've been together for, I think, 15 to 20 years. 20 years now. 20 years. Mm-hmm. Close to 20 years. And one thing I learned about my time in the music scene, when I was really young, I kept thinking, dude, all these guys are my friends. We're gonna be friends forever. Yeah. You know, like I don't know why other bands, you know, decide to split, because, you know, I get along with these cats, and, you know, they're cool. They got my back, and I really don't talk to many of them. That's just kind of like life. I mean, I don't have this, you know, like I was the manager / promoter, so I never had that type of creative disagreements. It's just, you know, you move on, life moves on, and when I see them, we're cool, we talk, but I really don't have a lot of things in common now. And now imagine if you're in a band for 20 years, and you've been doing this for 20 years, you change, and that's the whole backdrop and, you know, backstory of how, so honestly, after seeing that documentary, I didn't think there was gonna be another record made. So, but there is, and there's one, you know, like, it's called...
What's the Verdict?
What's the Verdict? Yeah, well, first of all, I think the name is kind of cool. You heard the name, right?
Actually, to be honest with you, I don't think I know anything about the album. I know it came out. I don't know what the title is. I don't know what any of the songs are about. I don't even know what it sounds like. I don't think I've read any reviews, so...
Well, see, that was on, because, yeah, I'm here to drop that knowledge. It's called El Objeto Antes Llamado Disco. So quite, you know, of the philosophy.
Yeah, that is a good title.
It is, because, you know, like, when we think of albums and dropping albums and, you know, like making a record, for what, 80 years, that was considered, you know, recording these songs, a number of songs that could fit first on a record, on a vinyl, and then on a CD. And when that happened, you know, people started getting crazy, because they started putting all kinds of, you know, songs in it. And then, now that it's MP3, you really don't have to make an album. And, like, it's not the same physical presentation, so it's not a disco, because it's not round. It's not an album, because you don't need to have 12, 15 songs. And also how you interact as a listener is really different, because now you have this thing, which is a question of listening, called the shuffle.
Right.
Or the skip button. And before it's not before, because, you know, like in our era, really, we came up with CDs, but then tapes. Like,
cassettes, yeah.
You had to, you know, listen to one song and the other, and you actually, you know, like, got that rhythm of, you know, how, you know, like, the song tracking, like the order, right. It was really important. And now it's not, because, you know, like,
right.
as soon as you put in those MP3s, you could go either way. So, you know, like, you could follow the way the artists and the producers decided to put the songs in order, or, you know, your shuffle will do it for you in a whole different way. So
actually, and yeah, I think I remember sometimes when I would I would burn a CD for somebody, sometimes I would change the sequence of songs based on which songs I felt like if I was trying to get somebody into a band, I would burn a CD, but sometimes, like, I would like the album and the sequence it was, but me knowing a certain person that maybe wasn't into that genre or group, I would change the sequence and say, okay, I'm going to start with this song because it's, you know, the one that's going to grab them, and then, like, change it. So it would become a completely different thing, which I felt like, in a way, it's being unfair to the artist because it's not what they intended, but I was like, well, it's sort of fair because I'm hopefully going to get this person into this artist, and it's going to, in the future, you know, they'll just seek out whatever music. But anyway, sorry, I'm getting...
Yeah, no, you're right. And then I think Café Tacuba is one of those artists that, you know, did this, but now they're on their way out, because a lot of artists these days, you know, bands, you know, they record a single or they record 3-4 songs, and they don't really care, you know, which way it goes, you know. So let me talk about Café Tacuba.